current BRED co-president. I'm not angry today. I am fed all the way up. I am ticked off. I am furious about the gun violence in Columbus, Ohio. It is ridiculous. And it is and has made our lives miserable. And all of this has been made worse by the fact that the city has a lackadaisical attitude and they've been in inaction for so long. We regularly hear gunshots in our city. Folks are coming home to find bullet holes riddling their homes and apartments. Calvin, a member of Bishop Scales' congregation, was driving with his granddaughter, had just dropped her off, was minding his own business, and was shot through the door of his car in the leg. In my congregation, Bill, one of my network members, lost his 16-year-old grandson to gun violence on Christmas Day, a little more than a year ago. Another member of my congregation, my friend Cynthia, happens to be my wife's network member, had her 2 grandsons gunned down at the same time in their shared apartment a few years ago. You see why I'm furious? This is personal. According to the Columbus Dispatch newspaper, from 2020 to December 15th, 2023, 666 people were killed in Columbus. BRED took on this issue of gun violence and used our people power to challenge the status quo. In our research, we found out that over half of all murders in Columbus were committed by 17 violent groups or gangs. The National Network for Safe Communities, NNSC, has a gun violence initiative solution. Cities that have taken this initiative seriously have been able to reduce their gun violence by as much as 50%. Columbus kept dragging their feet. Lives continued to be lost. BRED kept pushing. After 8 years of BRED pressing both Mayor Ginther and the Director of Public Safety to work with the National Network for Safe Communities, I am glad to be able to report to you that they finally agreed. Last summer, the city finally launched the Columbus Violence Reduction Initiative to implement National Network principles. It uses a carrot and stick approach. Since its launch, the initiative has united area, agencies, and leaders around a common message: the violence must stop. In a collaborative effort, city agencies have engaged 56 known violent offenders through individual contact and 2 organized events known as call-ins. We are calling in the violent offenders off the streets. The last call-in event was held at my congregation's church building. Both the mayor and chief of police were there, and I was there too. I saw law enforcement, judges, the U.S. attorney, social service agencies, and the faith community come together to say with one voice that the violence must stop. The violent offenders were treated with respect and as human beings and as the leaders that they are in their gangs and groups. The stick is that they were shown the negative impacts of their actions and what it does to our community. They were told what would happen if they continued the violence. The U.S. attorney shared that these folks are on his radar And if after that meeting they chose to continue the violence, he would not use local laws, but the federal laws to prosecute them to the fullest extent possible. If they were caught with even a single bullet or an empty shell casing, they could be looking at 10 years in federal prison. If the offenders didn't change their violent ways, law enforcement told them that they would target the whole gang, not just the violent offender. In fact, the violent offenders present were even shown over 50 mugshots up on the big screen of other violent offenders in our city who have already received the wrath of the stick. It was serious. Now, the carrot was that if they agreed to stop the violence, there are literally millions of dollars of resources that can be used to help them. Everything. Simple things like diapers and clothes for their kids. More complex things like help with transportation, with job training, with employment opportunities, with food and shelter, and much, much more. The choice belonged to each of those offenders. I was struck by how each presenter saw the individuals as leaders, as people of value, people who could use their talents for good. This was clearly an alternate narrative to the one they were used to. As the night progressed, I could see the visible changes in their composure and attitude. I saw true healing happening that night on both sides. So far, most of the violent offenders engaged in this process have started the change process. They are getting the benefits and resources. However, those who don't change are getting the stick. Last Wednesday, the U.S. Marshals Southern Ohio Fugitive Apprehension Strike Team arrested Brian Banks. They charged him with the aggravated murder, aggravated robbery, and felonious assault in the shooting deaths of 27-year-old Javon Hill and 26-year-old Jaron Hill. These were the grandsons of my friend and congregation member, Cynthia. Law enforcement told Cynthia that they have a very strong case against the offender. In conclusion, Bread will continue to press to ensure that this gun violence initiative is implemented with fidelity. The next call-in event will be in a few weeks on February 27th. With God's help and direction, we will make Columbus a safer place in which to live, work, and do business. Bread? Amen.